who writes so glowingly about Gene Rickson. McGarry, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. A little autocorrect issue with Twitter last night, but I got it right on the second opportunity there.
Yeah, as they would say on How I Met Your Mother, bazinga. Kevin Minnick jumped right on and said, "Who's that coach? I thought Gene Allen was in the house." So that's our other guest that we have on in the 9 o'clock hour to talk high school sports. And, of course, nothing gets by him. He had to zing right back at you. You know, autocorrect strikes again.
Right, all in good fun. Hey, if you make a mistake on Twitter, that's the great thing about Twitter, and sometimes the not-so-great thing. If you make a typo or something on Twitter, there's probably somebody there to zing you or let you know about it, so you can get on it and make it right.
In all seriousness, it is interesting to me, like, Facebook, you can edit a post. Instagram, you can go back and edit. You know, you can't go and edit a tweet once you've tweeted, whether it's right or wrong. And I think we've all wanted to go back and change something in a tweet, but when you tweet it, it's out there.
Right. You can delete it, but even that doesn't work. Once it's out there, it's still it's out there. Believe me, I've had people come back and cold takes and something, throw tweets back at you that you tweeted out 5-6 years ago. I'm amazed at sometimes what goes on, but it's all in good fun, and it's kind of like before Twitter, people would hang around and argue about sports. Now we do it on Twitter. So, it's all, every conversation that I have on there is all in good fun, basically.
Well, Mike, let's start off with Gene Allen and the Atlantic City boys, because obviously that was a milestone win last night, record tying 352nd win as Atlantic City boys coach. I noticed that Gino wore the suit and the tie and the jacket. He had the full getup. It's almost like he knew he was going to get his picture taken.
Yeah, I was kidding with him before that, and he said he had an engagement to go to earlier in the day, so that's why he was so formally dressed there. But obviously, Gene Allen ties Bill Swain for the most wins in Atlantic City high school boys basketball history, 352 wins. Swain, of course, coached Atlantic City from 1955 to 1977. Gene took over the Vikings in 2003. And really a great night for Gene, a great night for the team with the 66-44 win over Violent. And he can break the record today. Atlantic City up in Philadelphia this afternoon against charter school, Auden Wright, a charter school out of Philadelphia. So the Vikings have won 5 in a row. They'll see if they can get Gene Allen that record today.
Interesting, too, Mike, because last year, at least at the start of the season, it looked like Gene might not be able to break this record as there was off-the-court issues with the Board of Education and everything. Is that all behind us now?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think there is a suit still pending. For people that don't know, the Board of Education didn't renew Gene's contract last year. Gene ended up suing the board, and I don't think that case has been resolved. But and while that case is being resolved, he is the coach of the team. And one thing I've learned, Pete, I started covering high school sports, covering the Atlantic City boys basketball team in 1993. I've coached a couple of Atlantic City boys basketball coaches, including Gene Allen. And, I look at the Atlantic City boys basketball job. It's never simple. It's one of the toughest high school jobs, I think, in the state of New Jersey. It's like being the mayor of New York City, the head football coach at Notre Dame. You're under constant spotlight. What you do is almost never enough for people. So it is a tough job, and Gene certainly deserves all the credit for the success he's had over the years. And as I kind of pointed out in the story I wrote last night, he didn't need this win record to sort of set himself apart from the other Atlantic City boys basketball coaches. He's led the Vikings to 3 state titles, and before he got there, Atlantic City had won 0 state boys basketball titles.
Yep, you say that. The only 3, although I love the fact that you mentioned the fact that they won the first one in 2005. He says, I should have hung it up after 2005. That was a historic season, and I was only here for a year. I came in right about the same time that he came in, and so all I knew was Gene Allen and Atlantic High boys basketball success.
Yeah, I mean, for years, Atlantic City had a history of really heartbreaking losses in big games. Like they invented ways to lose big games. You know, they blew leads. They came storming back. They fell just short. I mean, they would have these losses that it would be hard to believe, how they lost these games. And Gene got there, and he has helped Atlantic City get over the hump to the point where, they win those types of games now, where they used to lose those games in the past. And you mentioned that 05 team. That's a great team with, Frankie Turner, Mark Crumble, Ed Keys. Derek Williams played on that team. That team won the state title in 05. And then, of course, in 12 and 13, a great group led by Deshaun Reynolds won back-to-back state titles. So Jaleel Montague, another great player on that team. So 3 state titles, and just as recently as 2016, they were in the state final again. Last season they were 10 and 15, first losing season in 50 years. But Atlantic City has bounced back this year. Last night was their 5th win in a row. They're a work in progress, but they're getting better every day, and they put themselves in position to play some big games as the season progresses.
If I'm not mistaken, you mentioned Deshaun Reynolds. Wasn't there a year that they had Deshaun and Deshaun, Kayshawn and Keyshawn as like part of their starting 5, and I had to always quickly figure out which one it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Reynolds family are very talented. The Reynolds family and the Montague family, very talented families out of Atlantic City. Going back to Jamar Reynolds, who was a great running back. The late Jamar Reynolds was a great running back on that 1999 Atlantic City football team that won a state Group 4 championship or a South Jersey Group 4 championship. Those are 2 last names you see a lot around Atlantic City sports, and you still see a lot. There's a Montague girl on the Atlantic City freshman team who's got a lot of potential. So that's a kind of, name that's run through. Those 2 last names have run through Atlantic City sports and produced a lot of victories for the Vikings.
I saw that Montague name go by on Twitter the other day. I believe it was Dave O'Sullivan that tweeted about her. Sully tweeted about that girl, and I thought to myself, I get to recycle the line, not a Capulet, but a Montague. I used to say that all the time. And, it's a Shakespearean type reference, but it was also a fun way to talk about a basket. All right, let's look through your late night hoops roundup, which always gives me a smile because, of course, I urge people each and every Saturday, please subscribe to the Press of Atlantic City. They are the last folks doing this, so if you don't have them, who do you have left, okay? So get that paper in the blue bag like I do each Saturday morning. But your late night hoops roundup is to sort of cover the games that came in after, right? And including Mainland with a big win. Mainland knocks off previously unbeaten Overbrook.
Yeah, Mainland 8-3, really having a good season. And Mainland with a big game up against Cedar Creek on Monday, a big Cape Atlantic League National Division game. But last night they go on the road against an undefeated Overbrook team, and Luke Mazer sinks 6 3-pointers, including I think he had 4 in the second quarter. Mainland really just jumps all over Overbrook and cruises to an easy win. And you look at that Mainland team, they've kind of opened some eyes this season. Last Saturday they played Toms River North, one of the top teams in the Shore Conference, tough at Toms River North, losing by 4. And then they go on the road and beat Overbrook. And in between that, they sandwich a win over Holy Spirit. So Mainland at 8-3, Coach Dan Williams doing a great job. Jake Cook having an excellent season for them. And Luke Mazer apparently didn't miss last night. So Mainland improves to 8-3 with that win over Overbrook. And they're starting to turn some eyes in South Jersey. They're established themselves as a South Jersey Group 3 contender.
I did see the Will Morris tweet, upset alert, because Millville was up on the prep for a decent period of time, and the Hermits had to rally, but they do ultimately win 56-43.
Right. St. Augustine playing without junior forward 6'7" Matt Delaney last night. Apparently he was under the weather, missed the game, and Millville at Millville, tough place to play. They've got a halftime lead, but the St. Augustine backcourt duo of Kevin Foreman and Elmarco Jackson. Foreman, of course, a senior, one of the Cape Atlantic League's top athletes overall, great center fielder for the Hermits baseball team, and Jackson, who's also a tremendous lacrosse player. I think they combined for something near 40 points, and St. Augustine gets it done in the second half. And St. Augustine with a big week next week, Pete. They host Holy Spirit on Monday night, and then they go to Wildwood Catholic on Wednesday night. So a big stretch coming up for the Hermits next week.
One of the other boys' teams I want to talk about is ACIT. Last year, Larry DiGiovanni takes over the program, and they were kind of scattershot and without, just trying to figure out what he has. And now this year, they're off to a pretty good start. Plus, they win over Bridgeton convincingly. They have not one, not two, but it looks like three weapons, that including a double-double from Jermaine Davenport.
Yeah, I mean, they're 7-4 right now, and Larry DiGiovanni's done a great job right there. I think James Waugh had a big game for them last night, and Abdul Rahim continues to play well for them. So when you can get scoring from more than a couple of guys, from 2 or 3 guys, you're a pretty tough team to defend. And ACIT, they're 7-4, and they're right there in that mix. In the Cape Atlantic League American Division, they put themselves in contention to sort of contend for a Cape Atlantic League tournament invite. So that's a great job by Coach DiGiovanni, because ACIT, the girls have been in that spot before, and the girls got another nice win last night over Bridgeton, but the boys haven't been in that spot in a couple of years. And so right now, ACIT, you mentioned contenders for one of the 8 spots in the Cape Atlantic League tournament, ACIT right there.
In your rankings, I chuckled in your rankings. Was it the girls' side or the boys' side where you had 7 teams, that on the 8th you just wrote, like, plenty of teams looking for this spot or something like you couldn't.
Yeah, it's early in the season. It was on it was on the girls' side, and somebody's going to emerge, right? So there were 4 or 5 teams there that hadn't really distinguished themselves yet, and that would happen. So for number 8, I kind of put to be determined, which might have been taking the easy way out, Pete, but it was a statement of truth also. So you're going to see this week, and it started to happen this week. I think Absegami beat Cedar Creek at the buzzer yesterday or the day before, so that was a big win for the Braves girls team. So maybe that's a team that we can look at when we redo those CAL Select 8 rankings on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. But yeah, kind of a little bit of a muddled picture on the girls' side, but it's still early. The tournament starts the end of February.
I hate to go back and forth, but I want to give Jack Sella his due. Holy Spirit, you mentioned their win over Oakcrest, and he was key in that.
Yeah, he had 20-something points, and there's another guy who started out. I don't know whatever Luke Mazer and Jack did before games yesterday, they should do before every game the rest of the season, because I think Jack came out and hit 3 threes in the first quarter for Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit gets a win, and a productive week for the Spartans. They dropped the game at Mainland. They lost a close one at Mainland on Monday, but they bounced back with a couple of wins at the end of the week, including a close win over Oakcrest last night to sort of stay in contention in that Cape Atlantic League National Division. And, a big week coming up for the Spartans as they travel out to St. Augustine on Monday night.
I did see in the hard copy of my paper that Kiley Watson notched another milestone.
Yeah, absolutely. She passes Skip Dill to become the all-time career scoring leader at Mainland Regional. Over 1,700 points for Kiley Watson. And, she's a senior now, and you're going to see those milestones, kind of roll in for her as the season progresses. And another big week for her. She and Sienna Red Howard of Atlantic City were nominated for the McDonald's All-American game, too. So another tremendous week for Kiley. And of course, the Mainland Regional team that, at one point is 3-3. They've kind of righted the ship. They've kind of adjusted to playing without Cameron Dirks, that great sophomore point guard who has that foot injury, and now they won 4 or 5 in a row, and, are kind of where we all thought they would be at the start of the season.
Mike McGarry with us here on the Pete Thompson Show from the Press of Atlantic City. Follow him on Twitter at AC Press McGarry. Mike, before we leave basketball, one of the neat things you get to do when you get time to and space to put a column in is sort of explore the stories behind the stories. And you wrote a nice piece on Jaleel White and his mother and how, basketball's been with him since the word go.
Yeah, I mean, Jaleel, of course, is the star of the, one of the stars of the Wildwood Catholic boys teams. That's one of the top teams in the state. And, I was fortunate to write in my column this week, sort of explore the relationship between his mother, LaToya McNeil, who I remember covering with the Wildwood girls basketball team in the early 2000s, that featured Monica Johnson and won state Group 1 championships there. And, LaToya became, pregnant with Jaleel during senior year, had to give up her basketball career. But, she's done a great job down there with Jaleel, kind of coaching him and stuff like that. So it was a real sort of interesting story to, about their relationship and how about the sacrifices that LaToya made as a young mother have sort of come to fruition right now and are kind of paying off. So, I kind of thank LaToya and Jaleel for both allowing me to sort of share their story and talk about what they've been through. And, it's really, really a story that you kind of enjoy doing and love to write stories like that.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about football a little bit in this segment, because on Tuesday, the NJSIA, well, more specifically the West Jersey Football League, released the division and crossover games. And right up high in your story when you wrote about it, and I know it's not finalized yet, but there's a chance that, it looks like Ocean City's going to host Holy Spirit, and then there's a chance that you could have St. Joe and Hamilton playing each other again. And wouldn't that be fun to renew that historic rivalry?
Yeah, it would be fun, but I think the emphasis would be on the chance part of it. I don't know if I don't know if that is going to come to fruition. That game is still kind of up in the air. I think the schools will decide in the next couple of weeks what's going on there. As far as it's never, one thing I've learned about football schedules and all the time I've done this, Pete, is it's never simple. So people might think it's simple, but it never is. But there are a lot of attractive matchups on that schedule. And, one you mentioned right away was, Ocean City versus Holy Spirit to start the season next year.
Right. September 4th, Ocean City hosting Holy Spirit. And you're right that Ocean City, South Jersey Group 4 final last season, Holy Spirit defending state non-public 2 champions. Anything else of the schedules as they first got put out jump out at you?
Well, I think that the reaction was there are 95 teams in the West Jersey Football League. So if you're going to do schedules for the league, 95 teams aren't going to be happy. And there were complaints about, where some Cape Atlantic League teams were placed in divisions, travel, Cape Atlantic League teams playing non-Cape Atlantic League opponents. But I think the thing that I kind of wrote in our list, and we're going to explore the schedule with a story later this week. You can look for that on Tuesday or Wednesday in our paper of this week. But I think the thing that people have to remember is what it was like for Cape Atlantic League teams before they joined the West Jersey Football League. And at that point, football had threatened the very existence of the league. I mean, Wildwood had left, Hamilton had left, and that was just the beginning. So the West Jersey Football League, in my opinion, though not perfect, and that schedule is not perfect, and there are some issues, and I think Cape Atlantic League teams sometimes get the short end of the stick as far as where they've got to travel to and what divisions they play in and how they're playing non-traditional opponents compared to other teams in South Jersey. But, things are much better under the West Jersey Football League, in my opinion, than they were when the 17 Cape Atlantic League schools were trying to do football schedules on their own.
What do you think the coaches, when they have a beef, what is it more with? The division that they are placed in or the crossover opponents that they're expected to go play or host?
I think it's a little of both. I think it is the travel. Some teams don't like being put in divisions where they don't really have any traditional Cape Atlantic League opponents. I think traveling for some, if you're going to pass, if you could go 10 miles to play a Cape Atlantic League school in a crossover, why are you going 50 to play a non-Cape Atlantic League school in a crossover? So, I think those issues are there. But again, I come back to a couple things. One, I kid football coaches all the time, who I love, that football coaches love to do 2 things. They love to coach football and they love to complain who they're coaching against. So that's what they love to do. And, 95 schools, not everybody's going to be happy. And 3, I come back to, life. If the Cape Atlantic League didn't join the West Jersey Football League, I'm convinced that the league, as we know it in every other sport, and what the league has done as far as the basketball tournament, the volleyball tournament, the soccer tournament, the great stuff the league has done in the past couple of years, I don't know if any of that stuff would have happened or the league would exist in its current format today if they didn't go join the West Jersey Football League. And like Hamilton's coming back, which is great for the league. They're coming back to the Cape Atlantic League. That doesn't happen if the Cape Atlantic League is not in the West Jersey Football League. So there are disadvantages to the WJFL, but the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, in my opinion.
Right. In other words, going to the West Jersey Football League freed up what took so much energy and time for the athletic directors, that then they could now focus and make the Cape Atlantic League even better and have postseason. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the goal for the Cape Atlantic League is to have a postseason tournament in every sport. I don't know that they're there yet, but I think they want to get there ultimately, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you hear too?
Yeah, that's what I hear too, and I firmly are 100% behind that. I think these tournaments are great. Pete, we look at high school sports. Very few teams get to win state championships and stuff like that. And high school sports is, in a way, is about creating memories and moments for kids. Well, how do you do that? Only a precious few teams get to win state championships, but a league championship, that's in league games, single elimination league games. Those create more memories for kids and teams. And I always say, high school sports is at its essence is about being the best on your block, and the block in around here in Atlantic, Cape May, and Cumberland counties is the Cape Atlantic League. So if you can play and win a Cape Atlantic League championship, that's just going to produce more memories and more moments for these teams and kids to remember and build on going forward.
Amen. Sounds good. Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Follow him on Twitter at AC Press McGarry.